يقول الله عز وجل ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. In the surah that the Shaykh just recited, we heard the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do people think that they will be left alone to say, we believe without being tested? And we have tested those before you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tests a believer when they say that I am a mu'min and I am a Muslim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to leave all of us just to make this claim without testing us to see the truthfulness of this claim. And this test, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is according to our iman. That's why if we look at the tests of the people before us, we see the story of Ashab al-Ukhdud, for example. They were thrown in a fire if they did not renounce the faith. We heard the story of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam also when his people said, we are going to throw you in a fire. We see the stories of the Sahaba when they were left in the desert with a rock on their chest, or some of them were whipped and beaten for the sake of the fact that they said, we are believers, we are mu'minun. So every people is tested according to their iman and according to their faith. And the weaker we are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows mercy on us by making our test easier. So we have to remember that. Our test for us as believers may be the simple things. For the Sahaba it would have been nothing. But for us it's a big deal. How we dress, for example. When we go to work, we have to ask for time off to go to Jum'ah. We have to find a place to pray and people might find it strange. The kids in high school, they have to fast and their friends are looking at them like they're crazy. So these are things that are, in our day and age, our kind of test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us with. Because of our weak iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us according to our faith by His mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he wanted the Sahaba to keep this in mind, that everything is relative. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests the people in different ways. For example, one day the Sahaba, they came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and they said, Ya Rasulullah, ألا تدعو لنا ألا تستنصر لنا. They said, Ya Rasulullah, will you not make dua for us and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us victory? And this was very early on in the days of Islam. The Prophet ﷺ told them some stories which put their struggle in perspective. They were saying, Ya Rasulullah, we're getting persecuted, we're getting tortured, we're getting beaten. So the Prophet ﷺ said, the people before you, a man would be put in a hole in the ground. And they would secure him in that hole. And then they would put a saw over his head. And they would ask him to leave Islam, to leave believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he refused, they would cut him in half. And a man would be brought, and they would ask him to leave his faith. And if he didn't, they would use combs. But not combs that you comb your hair with. Combs that are made of metal. And they would comb the flesh away from his bone. All of that, and the people would not leave their deen. The Prophet ﷺ said they would still remain strong on their iman and they would refuse to leave their deen. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ قَوْمٌ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. The Prophet ﷺ said, but you are being hasty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give victory to the Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give victory to Islam. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, إِنَّا لَنَنْصُرُ رُسُلَنَا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ يَقُومُ الْأَشْهَادُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised victory. But we are all going to be tested on the route to this victory. Every single one of us. So we have to remember this when we're going through our daily lives, when we are being tested in the way that we dress as Muslims, in the way that we look as Muslims, in the way that we have to take time to pray, and sometimes pray in public, we have to fast, we have to ask an excuse to go to Jum'ah from work or school. We will be tested with these kind of things. We should say to ourselves, subhanAllah, imagine what the Sahaba had to go through. Imagine what the earlier generations had to go through. Inshallah, this is something very easy and something very simple that I can do for the sake of my religion, because I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing me with what I can handle. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.